Welcome to the Shadow of History channel. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out more videos like this one. Captured in 2003, a 13-year-old Margot Robbie is seen immersed in a Harry Potter book, a quiet moment of childhood wonder before she rose to international fame as one of the most prominent actresses in the world today. The haunting nuclear shadow of a person vaporized during the 1945 Little Boy explosion remains etched onto stone in Hiroshima, Japan, serving as a permanent and somber reminder of the immense power and tragedy of atomic warfare. Gazing out from the Orion spacecraft, the Artemis II crew members look back at their home planet, representing a new era of lunar exploration as they prepare to venture further into space than any humans in decades. In 1956, Thomas Fitzpatrick landed a stolen plane on a narrow Manhattan street to win a bar bet, then remarkably repeated the dangerous feat 2 years later when a skeptic refused to believe his initial intoxicated achievement. In October 1963, young John F. Kennedy Jr. waited at Camp David for his father to land, unaware that the president would be assassinated in Dallas just 1 month after this tender moment of family anticipation was captured. Separated by 57 years of technological advancement, the legendary Apollo 11 and the modern Artemis II missions represent humanity's enduring quest to reach the moon, bridging the historic past with our ambitious future in deep space. Clutching their hats in a gesture of solemn respect, crowds in London observed the first 2-minute silence in 1919 to honor those killed during the Great War, a moment of national mourning captured in this colorized image. After being captured in 1945 and spending decades in an insane asylum for speaking what was mistaken for gibberish, Andras Toma, the last World War II prisoner, was finally identified as Hungarian and returned home in 2000. Caught at a Michigan airport in 1978 with over a pound of cocaine, Tim Allen avoided life in prison by cooperating with authorities, eventually serving over 2 years before his release in 1981 and subsequent rise to stardom. During the 1990s, the rise of LAN parties defined a generation of PC gaming culture as friends hauled heavy CRT monitors and tangled cables into basements to connect their computers directly for intense and social multiplayer competition. In 1982, Susie Phipps Guiori sued the state of Louisiana to be legally recognized as white after discovering her birth certificate classified her as colored based on records showing she was 3/32 black, but the court ultimately declined. Venturing abroad to study Western institutions in 1864, a delegation of Japanese samurai from the Ikeda mission paused during their travels to pose for this rare and historic photograph in front of the Great Sphinx of Giza. In 1961, heavyweight legend Cassius Clay attempted to lift former bantamweight champion Johnny Coulon in Chicago, but the unliftable man used clever leverage and pressure points to remain firmly grounded despite weighing only 110 pounds. Convicted of a triple murder in Kansas City in 1979, Kevin Strickland maintained his innocence throughout 43 years of wrongful imprisonment, eventually becoming one of the longest-serving exonerated individuals in the history of the United States. At a Missouri sanctuary in 2023, a disabled bald eagle named Murphy famously protected a rock as an egg until keepers replaced it with an orphaned eaglet, allowing him to successfully transition into a devoted surrogate parent. In 1995, MacArthur Wheeler robbed 2 Pittsburgh banks with lemon juice on his face, falsely believing it would make him invisible to cameras, an incident that later inspired research into the cognitive bias known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. In a bold attempt to bring discipline to the young company in 1981, Apple's first CEO, Michael Scott, fired 40 employees before drinking beer and declaring he would continue until it was fun, leading to his demotion. Born in 1875, Jean Calment lived for 122 years, witnessing the world transform from the age of the first primitive automobiles to the modern era before her death in France in the year 1997. To protect themselves from the bubonic plague during the 1600s, doctors wore eerie beaked masks filled with aromatic herbs and spices, believing these scents would filter out the foul air thought to be responsible for spreading disease. 4-year-old George Litwin is seen in 1940 carrying a sign during the Detroit Mother's Day Peace Parade, a poignant image of childhood innocence amidst the rising tensions of a world on the brink of widespread global conflict. Photographer Irving Penn captured this striking portrait of 3 generations of a family in New Guinea in 1970, showing a father, son, and grandfather together as a powerful representation of lineage and cultural continuity in the Pacific. Standing near the completion of their massive project, 3,000 workers who built the Chase Manhattan Bank in New York City posed for this monumental photograph to celebrate their collective achievement in shaping the iconic city skyline. During the 1983 filming of Star Wars, actors dressed as Ewoks are seen on set, providing a behind-the-scenes look at the practical effects and costumes used to bring the forest dwellers of Endor to life for the screen. On the morning of June 6, 1944, soldiers from Company E of the 16th Infantry waded through the heavy surf of Omaha Beach under the lens of Robert F. Sargent, beginning the grueling D-Day march toward victory. Following the atomic strike on Hiroshima, a massive mushroom cloud rose over Nagasaki, Japan on August 9, 1945, marking the second nuclear detonation in history and leading to the final conclusion of the devastating Second World War. In 1912, Titanic survivors Charlotte Collier and her daughter Marjorie were photographed in America, their weary expressions capturing the profound personal loss and trauma experienced by those who escaped the most famous maritime disaster in history. For over 60 years, a legendary super tusker elephant roamed Kenya's Tsavo East National Park, distinguished by her magnificent ivory tusks that were so long they touched the ground before her passing in the African wild. These poignant photographs capture a moment of profound cultural exchange as members of a Maasai community teach a young boy archery, while he, in turn, shares a Western toy with a Maasai child during their meaningful encounter. To maintain the historic USS Constitution, the world's oldest commissioned warship, the United States Navy manages over 50,000 acres of forest in Indiana to ensure a steady supply of ancient white oak for her wooden hull. In a display of daring and unusual recreation from the early 1900s, this archival image captures a moment when getting drunk and attempting to ride a pig was considered a form of extreme and humorous sporting entertainment. Long before the era of modern internet memes, this humorous photograph from the 1950s captures a scene remarkably similar to the distracted boyfriend trope, featuring a woman looking back at another man while her partner walks beside her. These two contrasting photographs of the Arctic, taken 105 years apart, provide a stark visual record of the dramatic environmental changes and the significant loss of glacial ice that have occurred in the northern wilderness. In 1977, Alec Guinness wrote in his diary that he hoped for a large payout from Star Wars, a wish that came true when his small percentage of the profits eventually earned him an estimated $95 million. Captured in 1995, this personal photograph shows Barack Obama visiting his grandmother, Sarah Ogwell Onyango, in Kenya, a private moment of family connection years before he would make history as the President of the United States. After being sentenced to 20 years of hard labor by the South Vietnamese government, Vo Thi Thang smiled at her judges and defiantly told them that their administration would not last long enough for her to finish. Born in 1868 with a rare condition known as dipygus, Myrtle Corbin possessed a double pelvis and 4 legs, gaining fame as a sidecar performer while leading a remarkably personal life that included marriage and 5 children. Known as the Minnesota Woolly Girl, Alice Elizabeth Doherty was born in 1887 and remains the only person in the United States recorded with hypertrichosis lanuginosa, a condition that covered her entire body in long, silky hair. Photographed by Auguste Bobone in 1900, this striking image depicts a traditional Portuguese shepherd dressed in heavy textured garments, offering a glimpse into the rural life and cultural heritage of Portugal at the turn of the century. Captured in 1971 during the height of the Vietnam War, this candid photograph shows a United States airman and his girlfriend together in Saigon, reflecting a personal moment of connection amidst the backdrop of a global conflict. Photographer W. Eugene Smith captured this powerful image of 3 Welsh coal miners emerging from the pits after a grueling day of labor, their faces covered in soot as a testament to the harsh realities of their industry. Appearing at the Cannes Film Festival in 1982, Harrison Ford is seen during a peak moment of his career shortly after the release of Raiders of the Lost Ark and while filming the iconic sci-fi classic Blade Runner. The entrance to Disneyland in 1965 reveals a vastly different era of theme park travel, featuring a simpler layout and a sign indicating that parking for the day cost visitors only 25 cents to enjoy the attractions. In a grim display of 1930s Chinese justice, a convicted murderer is shown publicly confined within a wooden cangue, a severe punishment intended to serve as a public deterrent by leaving the prisoner to face the elements. Marking a revolution in personal finance, the world's first automated teller machine was unveiled in San Francisco on October 25, 1966, forever changing how people interact with their banks and manage their money on a daily basis. Taken in the Atlas Mountains of North Africa in 1925, this rare and historic image serves as the last known photograph of a Barbary lion in the wild before the majestic subspecies was driven to near extinction. In a rare moment of levity between 2 influential figures of the civil rights era, Malcolm X is seen kidding around with Muhammad Ali in 1963, capturing the close friendship they shared during a transformative period in history. Moments before his death during the 1973 military coup at the Moneda Palace in Santiago, President Salvador Allende is seen standing firm, marking a tragic end to his leadership and a significant turning point for Chile. Students at the Whittier Primary School in Hampton, Virginia, are seen saluting the flag in 1899, reflecting the patriotic educational environment and the cultural norms of American schools at the end of the 19th century. A samurai is pictured in 1870 wearing traditional Han Iozain-do armor, representing the final years of the warrior class in Japan as the country transitioned toward a modern military and moved away from its feudal past. In this charming 1932 photograph from Scotland, a young boy is captured carrying a newborn lamb, highlighting the simple and enduring relationship between children and the livestock that supported rural farming communities during that quiet era. James Arthur Lovell Jr., who passed away in 2025, is remembered as the brave commander of Apollo 13, who safely guided his crew home after a life-threatening oxygen tank explosion during their historic mission to the moon. This detailed cross-section of the Titanic reveals the intricate engineering and luxury of the ill-fated ocean liner, showing the various decks and compartments that were intended to make the ship the most advanced vessel of its time. This 1859 photograph of the Taj Mahal, taken from the entrance gateway, captures the timeless beauty and architectural grandeur of the ivory-white marble mausoleum as it appeared during the middle of the 19th century in India. Engineers and astronauts at NASA utilized a specialized weightlessness simulator in 1965, a critical tool during the Apollo program designed to help explorers adjust to the physical challenges of gravity-free environments before traveling to the moon. Amidst the global Spanish flu epidemic of 1918, a lone newspaper boy stood in front of a shuttered theater in England, providing a stark visual record of how daily life and public spaces were silenced by the virus. High above the streets of New York City in 1932, fearless ironworkers were captured 69 floors up as they sat on narrow steel beams to eat their lunch and take a brief break during construction. In a horrifying case that shocked Austria, 18-year-old Elisabeth Fritzl was imprisoned in a soundproof basement by her father in 1984, where she remained in captivity for 24 years until her eventual rescue in the city. Captured in 1858, this historic photograph depicts Bahadur Shah II, the last Mughal emperor and a descendant of Genghis Khan, whose reign marked the final chapter of a dynasty that brought Mongol heritage to the Indian subcontinent. On November 11, 1918, the streets of New York City erupted in massive celebration as citizens gathered to mark the signing of the armistice and the official end of the combat during the First World War. A young Donald Trump was pictured in 1964 wearing a military-style uniform while attending school, a photograph often noted in historical discussions regarding his later transition to civilian life and his avoidance of the Vietnam War draft. During the 1960s, a young Bruce Lee was photographed alongside his legendary master, Ip Man, documenting the foundational relationship between the future global martial arts icon and the teacher who instructed him in the art of Wing Chun. Starting in 1974, Japanese photographer Masahisa Fukase began a dedicated artistic project where he captured an image of his wife, Yoko Wanabe, every single morning from their Tokyo apartment window as she departed for her daily work. An aerial photograph from 1967 reveals thick plumes of industrial waste flowing through the Cuyahoga River into Lake Erie, highlighting the severe environmental pollution in Cleveland, Ohio, that famously caused the river to catch fire multiple times. On the 24th anniversary of the September 11th attacks, we remember the 2,977 victims through the somber sight of unclaimed cars that remained in the Giant Stadium commuter lot long after their owners failed to return home. Captured in 1898 at Fort Apache, Arizona, this intimate and rare photograph preserves a quiet moment between an Apache mother and her child, offering a lasting glimpse into their daily lives during a period of significant transition. Balancing precariously on the skeletal frame of a rising skyscraper, a New York City construction worker is seen in the 1920s, embodying the daring spirit and physical risk required to build the city's iconic and world-famous skyline. In 1924, resourceful young football players in Washington, D.C. discovered that using flat spare tires was an easier way to inflate their pig skins than using their own lungs, a clever moment captured in this colorized historical photograph. On New Year's Day in 1976, residents of Los Angeles awoke to find the famous Hollywood sign had been altered by a prankster to read Hollyweed, marking the first time the iconic landmark was used for such a statement. In 1889, firefighters in Montreal were photographed battling a fierce and massive blaze, showcasing the rudimentary equipment and the intense physical bravery required to protect the city during a time before modern firefighting technology was developed. Just hours before his fatal car crash on September 30th, 1955, actor James Dean was photographed at a Los Angeles gas station with his silver Porsche 550 Spyder, marking the final images of the young Hollywood star's life. In a quiet and unusual moment from 1900, a man in Australia was captured sitting high within the branches of a tree to read a book, seeking a peaceful and elevated escape from the world below him. A grim scene from an Addis Ababa prison in 1950 shows a man being prepared for execution in an electric chair, documenting the methods of capital punishment used in Ethiopia during the middle of the 20th century. During a localized outbreak of the plague in 1900, a doctor in China was photographed examining a patient, illustrating the early medical efforts and the significant risks health officials took to treat the highly infectious and deadly disease. In the 1890s, a Chinese immigrant family posed for a portrait in Oregon, representing the many families who traveled to the American West during the late 19th century to seek new opportunities despite facing significant social challenges. Dressed in fashionable raccoon fur coats, a stylish couple in 1932, Harlem posed alongside a luxury Cadillac, showcasing the vibrant culture and the sophisticated social status achieved by some residents during the height of the era. In 1908, 15-year-old Vance worked as a trapper boy in a West Virginia coal mine, earning 75 cents a day to sit in total darkness and operate a door for passing cars, leaving behind mysterious hieroglyphic markings. Standing over 8 feet tall and reportedly fluent in up to 10 languages, the performer known as Chang the Chinese Giant was photographed in 1871 alongside his wife and manager during a tour of the Western world. On March 17, 1931, a workman was captured taking a daring rest on a high steel girder during the construction of Unilever House in London, overlooking the Blackfriars district from a height that few would dare to reach. Driven by the economic hardships of the Great Depression, a struggling family from Florida packed their few belongings into a car and headed north in search of work and a better life during the 1930s. In 1894, author Mark Twain visited the New York laboratory of Nikola Tesla, where he was photographed holding an experimental vacuum lamp that was brilliantly illuminated by electromagnetic energy transmitted through the air from a nearby coil. In 1928, Sherman and Sadie advertised their business in Dayton, Ohio, which is known today as the Midget Theater, a historic venue that continues to stand as a landmark of the city's early 20th century entertainment scene. Crowds gathered at Signal Hill, California on May 22, 1958, to witness the massive Hancock oil refinery fire, which became one of the largest blazes in state history as it burned uncontrollably for 3 full days. In 1923, a Hoopa spear fisherman was photographed standing focused and still as he watched for salmon in the river, demonstrating the traditional and sustainable fishing techniques practiced by indigenous people in the American Pacific Northwest. In 1953, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay made history as the first individuals to reach the summit of Mount Everest, the highest point on Earth, after a grueling and legendary ascent through the treacherous Himalayan peaks. On the morning of November 22, 1963, President John F. Kennedy sat for his final breakfast in Fort Worth, Texas, just hours before he was tragically assassinated during a motorcade procession through the streets of downtown Dallas. This 1890s photograph showcases a creative do-it-yourself toy horse, illustrating how families during the late 19th century used simple materials and craftsmanship to provide entertainment and joy for children before the age of mass-produced toys. In 1914, the influential Russian mystic Grigory Rasputin survived a brutal assassination attempt when he was stabbed in the stomach by Kionia Guseva, who shouted that she had killed the Antichrist as he clutched his severe wounds. Photographed in 1972, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center are shown nearing completion in New York City, standing as a symbol of architectural ambition just 1 year before the massive complex was officially finished and opened. In 1909, a group of young newsboys in Hartford, Connecticut, gathered for a photograph highlighting the common practice of child labor during the early 20th century when children were responsible for distributing daily newspapers across the city. The massive scale of the timber industry in 1920 is captured in this photograph of employees from the Capilano Timber Company, who worked among the giant old-growth trees that once dominated the forests of the Pacific Northwest. A child stands at a shop window, face close to the glass, looking in at what is inside. In Whitechapel, London, during the Depression years, around 1935. A bakery window between the child and the bread. The glass cold, the display just beyond reach. A figure in full military uniform stands at a stove, a gas mask over their face. In 1918, at Camp Kearney in San Diego, an inventive cook wore a gas mask to peel onions and potatoes, a practical solution, improvised and captured. The work continuing regardless. A family stands outside the stone wall of a rural cottage, dressed plainly, close together. In May 1913, a family was photographed outside their home in rural Galway, Ireland, the land flat around them, the sky wide above. A moment kept from a life that left few others. Steel beams rise into a New York City sky, workers visible at every level. In the 1930s, the Empire State Building was under construction, the frame climbing floor by floor above the street. The city below already dense and watching. A low wooden building sits at the edge of a dirt road, signs on its face, shade across the porch. A country store in North Carolina, 1939. The road unpaved, the trees thin, the afternoon quiet. A place people stopped at, on the way, somewhere else. A man sits in a small enclosed space, his wrists bound, his expression still American Airman Dewey Wayne Waddell, held prisoner in Vietnam, 1967. His uniform worn, his posture composed. The room tight around him, the year long. A child stands at a shop window, face close to the glass. In Whitechapel, London, around 1935. The bakery just on the other side, warm and full. The glass between them, thin as anything, and impossible to cross. A vision of sleek elevated rails stretches across a wide Soviet landscape, a 1930s Soviet concept for an electromagnetic rapid transit system. Clean lines, ambitious scale, a future being drawn on paper. The image more dream than plan. Young boys in pressed clothes lean against a building, easy and together. In 1941, well-dressed boys were photographed on the south side of Chicago, ties on, shoes shined, expressions relaxed. A Sunday ease caught on an ordinary afternoon. A man sits straight for the camera, his face angular and composed. In 1905, Geronimo, chief of the Apache tribe, was photographed. His expression steady, his posture deliberate. The image made 34 years after the last of the Apache Wars. Two soldiers hold each other in an open space, neither pulling away. Two soldiers photographed embracing during the Korean War. The ground rough, the sky pale, no one else in the frame. An unguarded moment between two people who understood the same things.